Hey everyone, welcome to the Live Econ Guy. In this video, I want to do an analysis of how mortgage-backed securities held by the Federal Reserve impacts the price of housing. So I want to start with this article. We'll get back to this. I want to start with this article that I found. Essentially, factors that affect the housing market. So there's a bunch of things like interest rates, economic growth, number of households in the country, things like supply of housing that this article from this economics help website says impacts housing. So I went further and I said, okay, I know that the Fed holds a lot of mortgage-backed securities. If they liquidated all of them, or if they never had them, what would the price of houses be today? So what I did is essentially I downloaded a lot of data from the Federal Reserve. So you can, if you want, you can pause and see the data that I downloaded. So things like 30-year fixed mortgage rates. And I used quarters from the year 2000 all the way to the current year. Also things like the total mortgage-backed securities held by the Fed and the median sales price of houses sold in the United States. So I transformed the data and cleaned it up, and it looks something like this. Then I ran some correlation to see which variables are highly correlated with each other, and I try to fix it. But some of these things are hard to fix, such as the mortgage-backed securities level and, for example, the total amount of households in the United States. Similar things with, I guess this one doesn't matter since it's a dependent and independent variable. But yeah, the results. So how much impact does the holding of mortgage-backed securities have by the Fed have on housing prices? What we found was, and by the way, this is all statistically significant, so statistically it makes sense basically, and we found an adjusted R-squared of 0.94, which means that about 94% of the variation in housing prices can be explained by these couple of variables right here that I showed you on this tab right here, so these items. So what did we find? We found that that mortgage-backed securities held by the Fed, for every $1 million held in mortgage-backed securities by the Fed, the price of the median house in the United States increases by about 2.3 cents. So before you jump to conclusions and say like, wow, this is meaningless, I want to remind you that the most recent data points of mortgage-backed securities held by the Fed says that they hold 2.6 trillion in mortgage-backed securities. So if the median price of a home in the United States right now is roughly $437,000, and this mortgage-backed estimator is roughly 2.3 cents increase in the price of a median home for every $1 million in mortgage-backed securities held by the Federal Reserve. And then we know that they hold 2.6 trillion in mortgage-backed securities. That means that if they did not have any mortgage-backed securities today, this analysis says that the price of the median home today would be $60,000 less. So that's about 14% of the value of the home. So homes today would be roughly 14% lower. So you can apply this to $1 million home and you would still get the same kind of idea. So a $1 million home today would be worth $860,000 if the Fed never touched mortgage-backed securities. So that's what this analysis says. Another interesting point here, if we look at the estimator for the 30-year mortgage fixed rate, it says that for an increase in for a 1% increase in the 30-year fixed rate, the price of the home will fluctuate by about 14,500 roughly. So that's saying when interest rates go up by 1%, the pressure that's put on consumers causes homes to fall in value by about $14,000 for the median home. And you might wonder, like, what percentage is that? So what we can do is we can do this right now and say this divided by this. So that's interesting. For every 1% increase in the for every 1% increase in the 30-year fixed rate for mortgages, the value of the home falls roughly by 3.3%. That's very interesting, according to this analysis. So this was just some data that I pulled and some estimates that I ran using ordinary least squares regression analysis. So if you found this interesting, do let me know. If you want me to go deeper into this and collect other independent variables to strengthen this analysis, do let me know. If you totally disagree, also let me know. There's just been a lot of talk like, oh yeah, mortgage-backed securities impact the price of housing, but it's like, how much does it impact it? There's currently the runoff of the balance sheet that the Federal Reserve is doing. You've all seen my previous videos about mortgage-backed securities, and I think this is one step closer to kind of getting a feel of just how much mortgage-backed securities impact the housing market. So once again, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate any likes, any subscribes. Once again, if you have any questions, please do comment below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.